All right, folks, you're certainly welcome to log out, but if you have any questions or want to ask something of someone specific, now would be a great time. And I'm looking through the chat, and there were some great questions early on.
Yeah, there was a great question from Brianna Freeman early on, and that was, what's it been like preparing for a show via Zoom? Does it change anything about the way you think about your characters or how you present them? So kind of a broad question, but certainly relevant.
Yeah. So I'll start in just terms of the directing and what it changes quite a bit because as you know, you are only looking at, let's see, as Judith says, from our bosom up. And so it's just facial expressions and not a lot of movement because when you move with a virtual background, things get a little funky. And so you've really got to think about how you can get your character across just with your face, voice. Would anyone else like to tackle it from your acting, from that point of view? Anyone want to say anything about that? For those that have done both on stage and Zooming.
Wait, this was a performance?
Prepping for performance. Oh, this was a performance?
I thought.
Yeah, you didn't know there were over 90 people here?
No, I just thought.
Jessica, go ahead. Why don't you say something?
Yeah, so there is something to be said about acting in basically a box. And as my line is, from the bosom up. There's a lot of, for me, I like to use my hands a lot. And for me, I had to reframe what that looks like because typically when I talk, I have very wide hands. But as you can see, when I move them away from my face, they disappear. So a lot of my movements became very small right here. And that was quite a thing to think about. And something as simple as holding a glass of water or, fake wine here, having to be very exact takes a little extra thought and preparation every time you do it, especially when you have a virtual background.
Anyone else want to say something?
I found it challenging to be looking at the top of my screen where I think my camera is, instead of into an actor's eyes. I mean, one of the things I love about acting on the stage is that electricity that goes back and forth between you when you're face to face, and it's a physical feeling, and it's kind of hard to, I mean, you guys are all great, so it made it possible, but it's hard to be alive for me.
Well, you could have fooled me.
You also don't get that energy back from an audience, even though this is, quote, live.
Right.
We get no feedback whatsoever from an audience.
During the show, yeah.
Yeah, so you don't have, like a lot of the connections are gone.
Yeah. It's tough, but I still, in the back of my mind, knowing that there's, people watching in real time, at least that creates a little bit of that feeling. But you're absolutely right. The give and take between the audience and the actor is definitely diminished.
One other thing that I actually just popped a picture into the chat for those of you who are able to access that. I just found it really interesting over the last few days to realize what my space looks like for backstage. I have my dining room table completely surrounded by props. My costumes are hanging off to the side, grabbing things from backstage. And it's just very different and interesting because there's really no backstage, but there's also a backstage as soon as you can turn off your camera or step away from the camera.
Right.
So it's a different experience, but just really interesting.
Yeah, to add more on what you folks were saying about the character, when we do something like this is my first experience with the Zoom. So you never really get off book because we did it so quickly within a couple of weeks. And I think it's hard to develop a character fully until you actually are completely off the book. It's also, it's almost like doing I was describing it to a friend of mine. It's almost like doing a soap opera live with teleprompters.
Yeah.
That's-
Well, there's a lot of elements of film acting to it for sure. But, you know, to be fair, we never promised anybody this was going to be a full staged production. It was these things that we're doing are always promoted as staged readings because we're just trying to give something, you know, to do once a month, you know.
No, I thought it was a great experience, and just to you know, I hadn't acted in a while. It was kind of fun to, you know, you don't get the same types of butterflies that you do when you get ready to go on stage, but you do have a little bit of the butterflies, yeah.
So one of the questions from my old neighbor from when I was a child, Jim DiFilippi, who's also written some books and is a playwright. So Jeannie, maybe the two of you want to connect. But Jim was asking why are we using a virtual background? And part of that is it's one way to create any kind of continuity within our environment. Yeah, so that's what that's behind Bonnie. So this behind me is actually my living room, and behind Dolan is the other half of my living room. And when I took the pictures, I was initially trying to get the rug to kind of create the continuity, but then it looked like people were sort of falling into an Alice in Wonderland sort of set, and so we changed the angle of the shot so that it looked like people could conceivably be sitting in the chairs, you know, like Bernie. And then Seth, who's playing Dan, was having so much trouble with the virtual background that he's actually in his living room. He is in an actual set, his living room. And then we gave Jessica, Seth took a photo of that and sent it to Jessica, so she's with him. So just trying to create some continuity and a set.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because if I were to tilt my camera one way or the other, I have my apartment's such a pigsty, and everybody would be kind of frightened by it. Actually,
Keep it straight on.
I mean, if you check out,
do it.
If you check out A Christmas Carol, which Ruth Ann directed and is available on our website, you know, you'll see the power of the virtual backgrounds where she's created these different scenarios all throughout the story of A Christmas Carol.
Yeah, there's like 12 or 15 different backgrounds.
Yeah, but it really, it's such an important part of the play in that scenario. I mean, this could have been, I could have pulled any stock photos and it would have been okay, but in any case. All right.
Nice, Lauren.
Oh.
My siblings are like commenting away. They're sending me texts.
Well, good.
Oh yeah,
So,
let me introduce the playwright, Jeannie. There you are. Jeannie, give us a wave. So that's Jeannie Beckwith, who lives in Roxbury, Vermont. And she's written, how many plays have you written, Jeannie?
oh my God.
Oh,
Okay, a lot.
Go to jeanniebeckwith.com and you can see them all.
yeah.
And so this was the first performance of this show, is that correct?
We did a rough, we just sat around Valley Players one night at one of Ruth Ann has readings, which this has kind of taken the place of readings, haven't they?
Yeah.
But I had never heard it, so I gave it to her. And so we did a reading with people taking turns reading the
It was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and I made a few changes, and I just hadn't done anything with it, and I don't know whether Ruth Ann brought it up or asked me if I had something, and I thought,
I think
well,
I
this
asked you. Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking for something to direct. Ruth Ann said, let me ask Jeannie, and it went from there.
we should address the question out of curiosity. Why did Doug stand in for Seth?
Because Seth got booted.
I lost my job very quickly, but I said something bad to the director and he let me back in.
So, you know, Seth's been having internet issues all along, and I've been ready to jump in. and it finally happened where you know, he just lost his connection, and so I jumped in, and we had a semi plan that was
Yeah,
okay.
my brother was watching. He thought it went seamlessly. So that's
Okay.
As the wife of Dan and Dan too, I will say that the multiple personality switch worked perfectly. I was very impressed.
Yeah, I noticed that you were doing Seth doing Dan.
Yeah, really, really well.
And Bernie was still there.
Yeah.
Bernie
I
was,
know. I forgot to change my background.
I didn't even notice.
Hey, there was a question super early on from, or at least from the credits, from someone, and I'm sorry, I don't remember who asked this question, but they asked how everybody got involved because they noticed there were people from out of state, out of Vermont. And you want to address that, Doug?
Yeah. So so we put it out on our website and in our Valley Players put it out and essentially, if anyone was interested that I knew, you know, I've seen a lot of people on stage, and then if anyone was interested that I didn't know, I asked them to send me just a short reading. And so I had seen Lauren in A Christmas Carol. I knew Josh. I've seen Michael a ton. I knew Seth, but I'd never seen him on stage, but I knew him as a person. Jessica was brand new to me, and she sent me an audition tape. And same with Charlotte, who just moved to Texas. And let's see, and Lauren's in New Hampshire, and Michael's in Virginia Beach. And so the people that I didn't know sent me a little audition tape, and I had a great turnout, actually. I had probably about 20 people who expressed interest. So I could have casted at least two times, which was great.
Always a good problem to have.
Yes, yes.
Makes me feel even better about getting the part.
I had most people were interested in playing Mary.
I wanted to play Mary.
That's so funny.
Oh my God.
I did. Well, I sent Doug, I was like, because he was like, oh, read the little script, and I was like, Mary. I want to play Mary.
You didn't fit the age bracket, Lauren.
He's an intriguing character.
Nice casting.
I have been thinking, well, probably only young people auditioned, and that's why he gave it to me, you know, in my usual self-deprecating way. But well, I'm extra happy to have been able to do it.
Doug?
Hey, there's a plot point question from Sylvia McDaniel, who picks up on a line that Detective Dolan says, why, and her question is, why did the detective think both Mary and the dearly departed were not real? And I'm not sure there's a clear explanation for that in the script, so I don't know if we want to put that to Jeannie or...
Yeah, let's put that to
I was going to respond to that because it's something, and I'd have to ask the actors too. I had meant it to be that the fact is that they have new identities. They have somehow, that the character, the names Michael and Mary were Lowe are made up. Not that the people are not real, but that they have, wherever they came from, they have assumed a new identity. And I'll just have to make that clearer in the script. One thing that's great about readings like this, I was getting little notes from Doug along about maybe a line might read better a different way. So it is, until you've actually had something on its feet, you can't know. I saw somebody else had some question about plot too.
It was about Maine. What happens in Maine?
Yeah.
Oh, you want to know what happened? Well,
That's
the ending of the
sequel.
play is ambiguous. I sort of, I think what happens at the end is there are 4 people who have kind of found themselves, or who are getting new relationships. And Mary may or may not be on Bailey Island. but I loved what someone said. I saw a note. It is a cul-de-sac.
It is.
Jeannie, what was I going to say? I have Officer Dolan's card here somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, I was wondering, Jeannie, how much this kind of macabre is rubbing off from Brett, or is that all? Is that all you? Because her husband writes. Yeah, he's a writer, and yeah, you got to read his stuff.
Well, I was pretty macabre before I met Brett, and it has only blossomed before that.
Is this
You have other, I was just going to say, she has other macabre plays.
Oh yes, oh yes. But
I was somebody was saying it sounds like there would be a sequel. And this is actually the second play I've written about, not these people, but about Lynn. Kind of the place about Lynn, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
And so I have, this is my second play. So and Detective Dolan is in the first play. He is.
Wow.
Oh, I thought, yes, Ruth Ann, he is.
I want to read that now.
Bobby Donahue. And a body in a car, you know.
Lauren's got a question.
I do. I just had a comment I was kind of thinking about tonight too, as because we had talked about like, are they hitmen? Are they doing drugs? And then when Judith was like, oh, maybe he's a hitman. And then we talk about like, oh, were we like, oh, Dan, maybe Michael was trying to kill you. Like, what if Judith hired Michael as a hitman for Dan and it failed? Right? Like,
so much for my 300,000.
Right. It just
husband that didn't die.
I mean, it's a totally different twist, but I just thought it was kind of funny, like thinking about it. I'm like, oh, she mentions it might have been a hitman, and then we talk about, well, maybe he should have died, but he didn't. But Michael, Judith hired him as a hitman, and it like, I just thought it was funny. Different interpretations of the same scripts.
And yeah, my spouse and I have been going back and forth about this for a few days, and one of the things that my spouse said was, Dolan, the officer, he seems to know a lot, and I actually I shared this info earlier with the cast, but then I actually misrepresented it. But there's a thought that was going through our heads of maybe Dolan is part of that mob or that crew of people, and he's looking for his cut of the money. And he's trying to find Mary because Mary has his money or part of it. So he may be most likely an officer because he was on the scene. But
that's why he's in part 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think,
Jeannie, where's part? Let's go. Let's part 3 already.
Well, I'll get started.
I think what needs to happen is that Brett now needs to take over the story and write a novel.
It could be a whole series.
I think what really needs to happen is y'all have to stop calling me officer and refer to me as detective. I think I made that clear.
Darling.
You are. So there's a question here for you, Mary. Do you feel like you knew that they had pawed through your money? And is it
yes.
trying to make a point by finding the card at the bottom of the money?
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
I knew I was caught. I knew. I'm like, shoot, she knows, but I'm going, oh yeah, the phone's in the kitchen. Yeah, sorry, it's in the kitchen.
In fact, I thought I was overdoing that part. Like, bottom of my bag.
You mean,
No, I didn't think so.
That was why she left.
Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
She had gone upstairs and not found it at the bottom of her bag, she probably would have stayed a little longer. But that's...
Well, you know, I one of my big questions about Mary was, what was it about 4 o'clock? Because some of it seemed like it was just like, let's just change the subject or stop this line of inquiry or whatever. But I decided for myself that I had it set up that I was going to catch a bus to Montreal, and I have a fake passport that I could, you know, get into Canada and be safe. And but you know, I needed to be on a time schedule, so I was like trying to skate it out as long as possible, so I wasn't wandering the streets. So that's how I figured that one out. But I still, like, what is it about 4 o'clock? I mean, why do I stay after I know they've gone through my stuff?
What do you think about that, Jeannie?
She just made up 4 o'clock to me, and when I was she has no intention of calling Detective Dolan, and she just threw 4 o'clock out because that gave her some time to plot and plan. So,
cool.
Or at least that's what I had in the back of my mind there. I keep trying to check the chats to see any other
That's
questions.
supposed to be Doug's job, but he's
I'm
talking.
so distracted.
There's
Oh.
nothing.
Are you reading the chat? I'm reading all the chats.
Someone wants to know, is Mary evil or not?
Yeah, that's my sister. She knows I'm evil.
Well, I think the following question is even more important. You know, why did she show up at the house? What was she trying to get was she trying to get away from the police?
Yeah.
Was she trying to use this family? What was her reason for being there? Or was it all innocent?
Well, I don't know that she planned on staying there, but I think that she wanted to check them out. It was an excuse, but she did not want to be in her own house.
She wiped it clean.
Police would be coming there, and that's why she killed her computer. God, and she wiped the house down. She spent all that once Dolan dropped her off. She spent time cleaning the place up, and it was, maybe she was just being nice. Maybe she was just bringing his phone back.
And
because
then
the
she was
phone
going to
can
go
be
on her way.
tracked. Remember, phones can be tracked. So, and then when Dan asked her to stay, that was just perfect.
Yeah, an unexpected surprise for her.
One of my first questions about the character was, why did I insist that I wait at the door with the phone and talk to Dan? And so what I came up with, the answer to that was, I needed to see if he was somebody that I could work, you know, to help me.
Yeah.
Or if he was gonna, you know, be too suspicious. And
so you could tell he was a mess right away.
I immediately saw that I could work the guy, you know. I could bat my eyes and say, oh, I don't know what I'll do without my Michael. And, you know, he'd think I was in shock, and he went along with it.
One thing for people out there, I know there are other playwrights or storytellers, and one thing that happened is I had this idea about this play, and I wanted to do a shout out to a musician and folk singer comedian from Lynn, Massachusetts named Don White. If you can Google, you can go to YouTube. He's got a lot of videos on there, but he wrote a song, and the gist of the song was he had actually had an accident and it should have died. And it was kind of an existential crisis for him. And everything else is all made up, but it made me think about that. And I had no intention when I was going to write a short play just about that dilemma. And then I just kept going. And when Mary came, this is one of those things about whether it's just process or what happens to you along the way. I had no clear idea other than that she would be presenting him with the second dilemma of what if you were in a wreck where you should have died and then somebody else did die and they shouldn't have. And that was, to me, was the going to be the play. And then the character of Mary just took over. It's just, she just became Mary. And I liked her so much. And I've tried to figure out ways to bring her back in the second act, but it's almost like, it would be almost like overkill to do that. It's so
Bonnie,
that's where
Bonnie wanted to see her in the second act. She missed her.
I did.
Well, again, it is still a play in progress, so I am open to suggestions. I was going to ask.
I think she is present. She's very present in the second act. You know, she doesn't have to be physically present.
Well, she is all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wondered, Ruth Ann, is there any way to print out all the chat comments? I would love to get those.
Absolutely. Marcy had made an interesting comment a little bit earlier, our friend Marcy Robinson. When they started saying, each of them, that they had nearly died, I thought they were all going to find they, instead of nearly died, had actually died. Uh-oh.
Ah,
No, that occurred to me.
And
Oh,
what was
really?
that? It was Lost. Lost was the television program.
Yeah.
No, but no, they've already done that and done it much better.
Yeah.
What was Rhonda asking?
Rhonda was wanting to know that how much prep time they had.
Okay, that's Rhonda is in Atlanta, Georgia, watching this. She's a friend of ours.
Fantastic.
And
Cool.
she was
Oh, yeah,
wondering about prep time.
Yeah, so the rehearsal schedule, what we did was I broke it up. I just broke it up into the scenes, and then we rehearsed each scene twice over a period of 2 weeks, and then we did 2 run-throughs, and we missed our tech run because I lost power. And so we did a quick tech before our dress rehearsal. So we did, so each scene twice, isolated, and then ran the show twice. And the tech, well, the tech was, Ruth Ann did a great job with the tech, and thankfully she has done it twice before and is learning more and more. And so she allowed it to be fairly seamless. I mean, we still ran into things, but it was still pretty easy. I mean, it was not a tech heavy show anyway.
Yeah.
And then that was
Thank
it.
you, Susan. Yeah, we talked a little bit about music with Jeannie, and I was not aware that the character of Dan was based on this person that she actually knew. But I don't know, we kind of, in my mind, before I knew about this guy that Jeannie knew, who was a comedian and a singer, and I listened to one of his songs, which was actually hilarious because it was called "People from Lynn Are Just That Way." And my daughter used to live very close to Lynn, Massachusetts. So I'm like, I get it. But I don't know, we kind of decided that to reference sort of the kind of music you might expect a guy to be playing in a coffee house kind of thing might work. And then we also tried to punctuate what had happened in each scene, what had just happened in each scene with the music. And then we tried to foreshadow what was going to happen in the next scene with the visual. So I don't know, I hope it worked.
I thought it was great.
Yeah, I think the music and the photos between scenes were they were an important part of the show.
Yeah, they were excellent, actually.
Transitions are super important. And I think, you're going to get that I hope you're going to get that in a live stage performance anyway. It's always super important to me to not leave audience sitting in a blackout. So the question on Zoom is, how do you transition between scenes in a meaningful way that's not going to make people feel like they've lost their connection? Why is there black? Am I not seeing the show? There's always so much confusion about Zoom. So I think it works.
I saw somebody in the audience was from Swampscott,
Yeah.
which is really a classier neighborhood than Lynn, but still cousins. And my cousin was in tonight. I don't know if she's still in the audience or had to leave, but we actually had a Linner in the audience.
Oh, that's funny. That we made Max. We also commented on that everyone's got some relative in Vermont who's always bringing them beer.
Yeah. Who doesn't? I love that line.
The line that I really enjoyed was, nobody that age walks around with that much money. Really, younger people do. Yeah.
Yeah, I would kind of disagree with that. I think the old people have all the money.
It's in my socks. It's in my underwear. I mean, that's what you do when you get old.
All right.
I saw a question from Rosemary, but maybe we want to wrap it up.
Well, I answered. I mean, what was her question? That it was a plot question
I
about.
thought Mary stayed away from her house because she was afraid that his van had been tampered with.
Yeah.
And there was a possible hit on her too.
Yeah, and Mary or Charlotte was talking about, maybe she's they're involved with the mob in some way. Yeah, there are a lot of places this could go.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I'm a fan of the ambiguous ending, because it's not about the ending. It's about these characters and what they've learned about being in this experience. And as Josh said earlier, that's the life-altering event, right? It's how they evolve.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I thank you all who hung around, and I love the steady stream of comments. It's really hard to keep up with.
It's the Norrises. I'm sorry. And here comes my daughter to add to the stream.
Well, thank you all for coming.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and the next show is coming. What weekend do you have going? Third weekend of February?
It's February 25th, 26th, and 27th. We will be doing a same kind of live Zoom performance of the classic Oscar Wilde play, The Importance of Being Earnest.
Yay!
Righto. Okay.
And then there's going to be at least one more play in this home or theater in your home series, but I choose not to reveal that at this time
because we don't know.
But I will be having an open casting call for that, so I think. But yeah.
Okay. Well, cast, it was a pleasure to work with all of you. And it was nice to have some old faces and new faces, and nice job. We pulled it off.
Thank you for the
and nobody died.
Not old and new, familiar and fresh.
There you go.
Nice to do something new.
Yeah. It was great to meet and work with you all.
Yes, likewise.
Jeannie, thanks for the opportunity.
Yes, thank you for the play, Jeannie.
Paul, did you want to say something?
There's Paul.
Oh, no. Our sister Sylvia just is giving a shout out to Paul.
Oh.
And I just wanted to put up a bunch of emojis, which is one of the things Zoom does.
Thank you.
I would give you a standing ovation, but I'm sitting down. Sorry.
So are we.
That's right. All of us are.
Good night.
Oh, thanks, David. Thanks, David and Gail. All right. Good night, everybody.
Right.
And don't forget, if you can't get enough, you can watch this again on the Valley Players YouTube channel next week.
What version are you going to put up?
Probably I think Friday nights.
Yeah.
No, I want the one. Doug, I was so disappointed. I thought you were going to come back and play all the parts.
I was working on different accents and different voice intonations.
That would have been the video equivalent of the time we did the Christmas Carol radio show when all the mics went out and we ended up with one mic.
Everyone's crowded around the mic.
That was so awesome when that happened.
So fun.
All
right.
night.
See you
Bye.
all
Good
soon.
night.
Everybody.
Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Thanks.